All right, everybody, welcome to Meet in the Freezer Outdoors. My name is Danny. We're here with a very special guest. We're here with Matt Hartsky, founder of Backbone Unlimited. Matt, how you doing?
I'm good, Danny. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. And I've looked at you have quite an impressive resume. You're fitness coach, guide. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Get started here.
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of things over the years. The biggest bulk of it has been the coaching. Been a strength conditioning coach for right at 30 years. Got my first certificate in '96. So been doing that for a long time. Owned and sold a few gyms over the years. Currently own a small private training gym here in Laramie, Wyoming.
Okay.
Have family here with 3 boys and a granddaughter that we adopted, and we love it here in Wyoming and doing our own thing and hunting elk and being around elk and western
Gotta
big
love
game
it.
as much as possible.
Yeah, gotta love it.
Yeah,
Family into hunting too?
absolutely. Yeah. All the boys are for sure. Just something that I've done since I can remember. Following my dad around shooting bunnies. Starting
Oh, yeah.
probably when I was like 4 or 5, and it just grew from there. And passion for elk hunting runs in the family. And yeah,
Yeah.
my oldest son Saxton has his own outdoor business called Wildborn Outdoors, and he's just an animal probably in the field 95% of the year, and so he's designed his lifestyle around that and being able to get out there. So yeah, this is all we do, all we think about pretty much.
That's awesome. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
So 30 years as a fitness coach.
Yes, sir.
That is impressive. I'm barely over 30 years old myself.
Right. Yeah, don't tell me that just makes me feel old. But
Oh man, wasn't meaning to do that.
yeah, I've been doing that a long time. I went to school to, obviously as a multi-sport athlete in high school, and went to school to run. Was kind of not necessarily the thing that I enjoyed the most, but the thing that I ended up being the best at. And so I went to Adams State in Alamosa, one of the best running programs in the country. Ran there for a little over 4 years. My wife and I were All-Americans and national champions there, and just kind of developed the passion for coaching out of that. A lot of that came from just not really having any coaching in high school, and I wanted to be able to give something better, give back in that way. And so that's kind of how that passion started for me. And then once I actually got into it, just my personality, I just couldn't get enough of the learning and trying to learn all kinds of different aspects about it to be as well-rounded as I could and work with as many people as I could. And so, I have over 15 certifications now, including the best ones that I could get my hands on. And, the most important part of it, though, is I've been able to meet thousands of people over the years and just a crazy number of success stories, and it's been a really rewarding career.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I'm in the midst of a fitness journey myself. I'm about 34 days in now.
Okay, awesome.
I took my fitness serious, but not as serious. But now, between your program and I got a buddy that's a physical trainer, you guys are whipping me right into shape. It's awesome.
Nice. Good deal.
So on a typical day, when you're working out, what does that look like? What does that look like for you?
For myself?
Yes.
Yeah, it really depends on the time of year. I would tell you that overall, my philosophy has really developed, especially as I've gotten older and away from a lot of the competitive athletic side of things. I started out with the running. Throughout that journey, I ended up being sponsored and trying to make the Olympic team in the marathon. So by the time I was kind of done with that part of my journey, I was down around 130 pounds. I can remember being out on runs, and which was just constant, 2-3 times a day at that level, running 200 miles a week. But I remember being out on runs and guys having a good time in the evening and running by and throwing beer bottles at me, and I can remember saying, man, when I'm done with this running thing, I'm going to get jacked. Nobody's ever going to throw a beer bottle at me again. And so anyway, when I kind of finished that journey, I did start hitting the gym hard. And eventually I had folks who wanted to train for bodybuilding. I had a fellow named Dave Schachterly that I went to high school with that had an incredible coaching and training business in Texas. he had a couple hundred ladies who would compete across the country, coast to coast, just about every weekend, and they were constantly winning. And I said, hey, Dave, I want to pay you to take me through this. I want to know, why your gals are so successful, and his guys, but he just had a lot more ladies. Well, how you're so successful at this. So paid him to take me through my first bodybuilding competition. I won that show, qualified for nationals. So that was a big part of my life for a long time, going down that route, trying to figure out how to be as big as I could. And then I went through a period of time where I had a lot of clients interested in powerlifting, something that I'd been interested in myself. So went down that route, sought out some really good coaches. And really what all that taught me was, when I started out, when I left from running, we did a lot of lifting as kind of a side note. It was for strength endurance. It was just for runners, even though, I'd visit the Olympic training centers and they would take us through certain programs that focused on different strength areas. It was kind of an afterthought for runners at that point in the 90s still. And so what all of it taught me after several years of actually coaching on my own and going down all those rabbit holes was that, man, there's 1,000 ways to do this, right? And really, a lot of times you got to figure out what that is for you. And so what I talk about in my fitness journey is probably going to be pretty different from a lot of folks. I have that huge background. I had that huge base, a lot of knowledge, working with somebody as a coach. The most important parts of my philosophy are keeping them safe and delivering the most effective training possible. Those two things doesn't do the client or myself any good if they're injured, right? So safety is a huge thing for me. And so all of those pieces roll into how I train now. I mean, I'm about to turn 49. And so I like to be as well-rounded as possible. Certainly don't want to just go out and lift and neglect the conditioning side of things.
Right.
I've been there in the mountains and that hasn't turned out well. I've been on the other end of the spectrum where I was that 130-pound runner who didn't hardly lift at all. And I can tell you that was probably the most miserable pack outs and elk hunting that I ever had. And so now just training to be a mountain athlete as a 49-year-old guy who's got a lot of miles and wear and tear on his body. I just try to be well-rounded. I try to get the most out of my training that I can in a way that doesn't knock me down for a few days. I need to be able to get out and scout. I need to be able to get out, pick up sheds or hunt. And we're trying to do that. We try to hunt just about every month out of the year, something, somewhere. And so always want to be able to turn around and be able to climb mountains and try to keep up with the kids that are always kicking my butt, And so a typical day for me is just going to also depend on the time of year. So I'm a huge believer because of that running background where we would pick a date and we would work backwards and structure the training based on that peak goal date. And so whether I'm working with a client or looking at my own training, that's a really important component of that training. So for me, the Super Bowl would be September, elk hunting. And that's when I want to be in my peak physical condition, even though I train year round. And so for me, I work backwards from that. And so this time of year, I'm trying to build a huge base of strength. The conditioning and the cardio is a much smaller part of the program right now for me. So I'm happy with 20 to 40 minutes of cardio and conditioning a day. The bulk of it for me is going to be the lifting right now in a way where I can still recover from day to day. So, it used to be, like in the bodybuilding days, it was 7 days a week, usually 2 to 3 workouts a day. I was in it to win it. It was serious,
That's rough.
And the name of the game then was, recovery, who could recover the fastest. And that's where a lot of guys get in trouble using performance enhancing drugs and whatnot, because they're not just taking it because they can sit on the couch and get big. They're taking it because it allows them to recover faster.
Right.
And so anyway, that type of training isn't going to fit into a 49-year-old training for the mountain now, without drugs, that's for sure. Yeah. And so for me, I want to be able to recover. So for me, it's usually about 4 days of strength training a week. And then on the days in between, I'm more focused on the conditioning side of things or working on mobility or
working on being functionally fit.
What's that?
You're working on being functionally fit.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So a lot of things outside of just the hammer in the gym. And so then that, we'll go through, I'm probably this year going to wait all the way through the end of March, building that big base. And then it will start to change for me. Intensity will start to ramp up a little bit. Volume in terms of the gym will start to go down, but volume of conditioning and cardio and hiking will start to go up, right? To get that specific mountain training in. And so, for guys, if I've used words or rambled too much here, the idea here is we want the biggest bases as possible, right? So if you're building something that needs to be structurally sound above it, the wider, the bigger the base, the higher potential peak you have for maintaining not only reaching your potential for the highest peak possible, but for also making sure that peak is nice and fat still, and so you have the least opportunity for breaking along the way. Guys who hop in and they start hammering right away at any point of the year, maybe they've waited too long, or maybe they just are super motivated in January, or they drew a tag in March or April and they start with that intensity too high without building that base. What ends up happening is either they kind of plateau early and they get burnt out or injured, or they're kind of trying to figure out where they actually go. Maybe now it's June and I still have to keep on training hard until September, or they try to extend that peak on up and they keep fighting through everything and they end up with this skinny pyramid, and that's where a lot of injuries can happen along the way. So when I talk about building that base, that's what that means for me. I want the best foundation I can have before I start ramping up the intensity and before I start increasing the volume of the overall training. So anyway, that's kind of an overview there of what training looks like for me. And it's just going to change and fluctuate throughout the year, all the way until we get to that prime time in September. I'm going to try not to quit. I'm going to train as much as I can, even though it's going to be pretty minimal when we're hunting almost every day from September on. But yep.
All right. So how would you say fitness relates to hunting, like scenario wise? What would you suggest somebody does to, I don't know, strengthen their mountain readiness, mountain toughness, if you will?
Sure. Yeah. There's three areas that stand out to me for mountain hunters that really show up every year for myself. And so that's kind of what I focus on throughout the training and the coaching as well for guys. Number one is it's dark. I'm on my way in. A lot of times these days, my kid has sent me in somewhere and, he said, "Dad, this looks like a really good waypoint. It looked good when I was picking up sheds or I was scouting or I saw some bulls in there." And usually that's about the nastiest place he could probably send me. So I don't know if it's an accident or on purpose from all the years of me dragging him along, but they're usually tough, rough climbs to get in. The spot where I killed my bull last year, hunted 18 days in a row in the same spot. And it was an hour of climbing, and you realize really quickly, like in the first 5 minutes of that hour, that if I wasn't prepared, if I hadn't been conditioning, I mean, it would have been awful. I might have done it. I can see why guys might go in there once and then not want to do it again, because not only do you have to get in there the first time, then you got to hunt all day probably, and then come out and then possibly be trying to bring meat out with you, And so anyway, there's that element. So being ready to actually handle climbs, get to where the elk are, not being afraid to go after them wherever they are, whether that's down in a canyon, whether it's across and you spot them 2 miles away. That happens for us a lot. We spot elk, they go into timber, they don't come out the other side. We know that they're there. All right, well, I mean, we can hunt around on this side and try to find an elk close, or you can just suck it up and get that 2 miles over there and have an interaction, And so that's the first element for me. The other element is being able to go day after day and all day. A lot of times, I mean, you're back into country. You might need to just keep on trucking, whether that's because your morning hunt took you so long so far in that you know it was going to take you the rest of the day to hunt back out, or maybe you're backpack hunting or whatever it is. But for a lot of guys, they need to be prepared to go all day long and have the stamina to come back the next day and not be so beat up that they can't get out there and do it again or get to those elk when they spot them. And then the third piece, the third element, obviously probably the hardest part, is being prepared for the pack out, you know, because I talk to so many guys every year that tell me that they're just wrecked when it comes to the pack out, and they get into that first load and they just didn't really understand how serious that was, you know. And so that's that element. And so when we look at all of those elements, there's a little bit of a different component for all of it, but you know, a ton of it comes down to that strength foundation, building the strength foundation in a way where you're prepared for, you know, a big blast in the morning to be able to get into an area, or to be able to make an assault, you know, a couple of miles away and go through, you know, steep descent, crossing rivers, you know, head up steep terrain, and then the strength to be able to handle that pack out. So all of that comes into that strength foundation. And then, you know, the second half of the year leading into season, it obviously that becomes the critical part for building that stamina and that daily grind strength and that day-to-day strength, and being able to recover and come back for all of those as well. And so, you know, for the average guy, if he doesn't have any guidance, doesn't have a gym membership, obviously rucking is going to be a huge thing. Body weight exercises on the legs, especially wherever they can. For me, even when I'm at home, you know, and I'm working in the home office, it's a constant thing, one task to the next for me. And so in between those tasks, a lot of times I'll just set up goals where, all right, how many body squats can I get in a day? Those might be broken down into sets of 25 or 50 or whatever it is. And there's hundreds of different leg exercises that you could do at home. And you might say, well, they're only body weight, but it makes a huge difference throughout the course of a year doing that all the time, you know, most days. And so you don't have to have a big gym to figure that out. If you do, great. It's just more tools that you can use. But I would start early on by trying to build that foundation, trying to build up your strength, see how sore you get, you know. Do 5 sets of 20 squats if you're starting from 0. See how sore you are the next day. Didn't get too sore? Cool. You can probably start adding on more, you know. Maybe it wrecked you for 3 days, you know, and you've got to come back, and maybe it's time to do those 5 sets of 20 again and build in more slowly. And that's how I would approach all the elements of training. Rucking, same way. You know, a 20 minute ruck with 20 pounds in the pack might not seem like much to some guys. To other guys, that might make them really sore for a while, you know. And so just starting out with what you can do, not trying to bite off too much, not having the typical male ego where we just want to go out and crush everything right off the bat, and allowing yourself to build into it. I think those are all great starting points there. Obviously, it's a huge topic that you asked, a huge question. You know, right. What should guys do? Well, there's 1,000 things guys should do, right? And so, but just starting where you're at, trying to research as much as you can. If you can afford to pay for a program from somebody that's, you know, $30 a month, I highly recommend it, because that's going to cut your learning curve down quite a bit. And if you can't, just still, there's a ton of free information down there. I've got videos out there about, you know, how to get going in the springtime and build that base. And it doesn't give, you know, very specific exercises, but it's not a very big leap for you to find another video where you can find those exercises and start plugging them into your routine. And the bottom line, though, is that 1 is greater than 0, right? So doing something is better than nothing. And so for anybody that's intimidated by it or whatnot, you know, it's just getting started and doing something, not worrying about what some hero on Instagram is posting about their workouts and getting demoralized about that. It's just about you, your goals. Start where you're at, you know, and build on that every day.
Baby steps, small steps. Yep. Take it easy.
Yep.
Oh, well, Matt, that has all been very knowledgeable and very fulfilling for me. I'm going to take a lot of this to heart now.
Awesome.
on my fitness journey myself. But so in closing here, got any hunt plans? Got any event plans for this year?
Oh man. Yeah, probably too much. I think the balance is trying to find balance, maybe. I don't know. I don't believe in balance too much, but for my own life. But yeah, lots of hunt plans. We already drew Idaho elk, my son and I. I'm guaranteed to draw Colorado. We're guaranteed to draw Montana, but we're not going to do it. We're going to save that. We're going to guaranteed to hunt Wyoming, home state. So yeah, I think we have 7 hunts just September and October scheduled. So that's the Super Bowl for us, chasing those bulls. But yeah, lots of stuff leading up to that, and obviously keeping going with this. We have a big elk camp that we're putting on this year. So 2 weekends in June, 2 weekends in July, where we're having 10 guys come out per camp to learn hands-on everything that we can teach them about elk. So yeah, just a full calendar of nothing but this, buddy. Just talking to good people and helping them improve.
You are certainly a very busy guy.
Yeah, well, I lost my oldest son to suicide 4 years ago, and I can't tell you how much this has helped me. So I try to stay as busy as possible, because the busier I am and focused on task and helping other people, the less time I have to dwell. So it's been a huge help for me. And if you see that I'm just busy, go, that's a huge reason behind it. Doesn't give my brain time to worry about anything else.
That's awesome, Matt. If you just want to let these guys know how they can get a hold of you and what you got going on your website and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. All the social media channels at backboneunlimited.com. Would love for you to check out the YouTube channel at Backbone Unlimited. That's where I invest most of my time trying to help folks. And then you'll find all of our resources also on backboneunlimited.com.
All right. Sounds good, Matt. Well,
hey, Danny, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on, Matt. Talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right. Yep. Oh.